Welcome to the deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
Today we're going to be doing something a little different.
Oh.
Yeah, so we got this really interesting article
Okay.
from a listener, and we're going to dive deep into
Okay.
it.
Deep dive.
So the article is called Adaptive Education, Learning and Remembering with a Stone Age Brain
Okay. Sounds interesting.
by James S. Nairn. And it's all about how, even though we live in this super modern world,
Right.
our brains, they're still kind of working with the Stone Age operating system. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Makes sense. We're still using the same basic hardware.
Exactly. So we're going to explore how this Stone Age brain influences how we learn and remember stuff.
Well, I'm excited to dive in. This should be fun.
Me too.
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump right in. This idea that our basic learning and memory processes are, like a product of evolution, right?
Yeah. That's pretty widely accepted. Makes sense, too. Our ancestors needed to remember where to find food, how to avoid danger.
Exactly. It's like survival of the fittest, but for your memories.
I like that. Survival of the fittest memories.
But the article goes a bit deeper. It says these ancient selection pressures are not just a thing of the past. They're still shaping how our memory works today.
Right. It's not just that we have memories because they helped our ancestors.
Mm.
It's that the way our memory works is still influenced by what they needed to survive.
And a key part of that is, as the article says, fitness. Basically, how those memories help them survive and pass on their genes.
Exactly. So remembering things like where to find food or how to avoid a predator, those would have been crucial for fitness.
Right, because if you don't remember those things, you're less likely to, well, survive.
Exactly. And you're also less likely to pass on those genes to the next generation.
So the big question is, how does this focus on fitness in memory play out in our modern world?
Right, because we're not exactly hunting for our dinner or dodging saber-toothed tigers anymore.
Okay, so let's talk about something the article highlights. Animacy. Basically, this idea that our memory systems are tuned to the difference between living things and non-living things.
Yeah, this is fascinating. It seems so obvious, but the research shows it's deeply ingrained in how we process information.
So what's that mean exactly? Like, we remember information about living things better.
Yes, exactly.
Hmm.
Study after study shows that we remember information about animals, people, plants better than information about, say, rocks or tools.
Wow, really? I never thought about it like that.
And it's not just remembering lists of words. This animacy effect pops up in all sorts of memory tasks, even things like foreign language acquisition. It's easier to learn words for living things.
So our brains are basically prioritizing living things.
That's the idea. Because in our evolutionary past, those were the things that could really impact our survival.
Makes sense. A predator or prey is a lot more important to remember than, I don't know, a random rock formation.
Exactly. And this animacy advantage shows up in more than just memory.
Really? How so?
Well, for one, we're way better at detecting changes in living things compared to non-living things.
Oh, interesting.
And studies have also shown that we even interact differently with things that we perceive as being alive. It's like we're hardwired to pay more attention to them.
So even our attention is guided by this animacy thing.
It seems so. There's even research using the Stroop task, where you have to name the color of a word.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
They found that words related to living things kind of mess with our attention more than words for inanimate objects. It's like we can't help but process that information more readily.
Wow, that's wild. So it sounds like this preference for animacy is pretty fundamental to how our brains work.
Yeah, and the research suggests it's there from a very early age. Studies with infants show that even they seem to have a natural preference for looking at and interacting with things that are alive.
So it's not just something we learn over time.
Right. It seems to be built in, at least to some extent.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, right? Understanding and interacting with living things was essential for survival for our ancestors.
Okay, so we've got this animacy advantage going on, but the article also talks about something called the survival processing effect.
Right. This is another really interesting piece of the puzzle. It basically means that if you process information in the context of a survival scenario, you tend to remember it better.
Oh, that's interesting. So, if I'm trying to remember a list of words and I imagine myself stranded in the wilderness and needing those items to survive.
Exactly. Research has shown that doing that actually improves memory compared to other ways of processing the information.
Huh. So it's not just about thinking deeply about the information, it's about thinking about it in a specific way.
Exactly. It's about considering its relevance to survival. So if you're in the wilderness, a knife is going to be more useful than, say, a dictionary. And thinking about that helps you remember the word knife better.
That makes sense. So it's like our brains are primed to pay attention to information that could be important for our survival.
Right. And this effect has been shown in all sorts of contexts. Like studies have shown that kids remember information about dangerous animals better if they learn about them in a survival context.
Oh, that's cool.
And the same goes for things like learning about edible versus poisonous mushrooms. The survival framing just makes the information stick better.
And the article mentions that even things like remembering information about potential contamination or potential mates.
Yeah, those seem to tap into specific survival mechanisms too. Avoiding illness and finding a mate are both crucial for passing on your genes.
Right, it all goes back to that fitness idea.
Exactly. So
Hmm.
even though we don't face the same survival pressures as our ancestors, our brains still seem to be tuned to that kind of information.
Now, the article does say there's still some debate about the exact reasons why this survival processing effect is so powerful.
Yeah, researchers are still figuring out all the details.
But the main takeaway seems to be that thinking about survival helps us remember things.
Exactly. And that's something we can all use to our advantage.
So we've talked about how our brains are kind of stuck in the Stone Age, at least in some ways.
In a good way, though, right?
Right. And that's leading to some cool insights about learning.
Yeah, the article argues that effective learning should take these evolutionary biases into account.
Makes sense. Like if we know our brains are drawn to living things, maybe we can use that to our advantage in the classroom.
Exactly. So instead of just presenting dry facts, teachers could use examples that involve animals or people, make the information more engaging and memorable.
That's a really cool idea.
And the same goes for using survival scenarios. Not in a scary way, but in a way that taps into those natural instincts.
Like framing a lesson about resource management around surviving in the wilderness.
Exactly. It could make the information more meaningful and memorable.
I like that. It's different from some of the other learning strategies we've talked about before, like testing yourself or spacing out your study sessions.
Right, but it's not necessarily replacing those strategies. It's just adding another layer.
Another layer that's rooted in our evolutionary past.
Exactly. And it also ties into the concept of prepared learning.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that we're predisposed to learn certain things more easily because they were important for our ancestors' survival.
Like how it's easier to learn to fear snakes than, say, flowers.
Exactly. Our evolutionary history has shaped what we're prepared to learn quickly.
So to sum it all up, our brains aren't blank slates.
Right. We come preloaded with all sorts of biases and tendencies.
And those biases, like our preference for animacy and the power of survival-related thinking, they can actually help us learn and remember better.
Absolutely. It's all about understanding how our Stone Age brains work in a modern world.
And that brings us to our final thought for you, the listener.
Oh, I like these.
Think about how you can use these ideas in your own life. Could you try incorporating elements of animacy or survival relevance into your own learning?
Yeah, like when you're trying to remember something for work or school.
Exactly. What everyday situations could you reframe to take advantage of these ancient brain mechanisms?
It's a fun challenge. See if you can find those hidden connections between your Stone Age brain and your modern life.
I think that's a great place to leave it.
Yeah, this was a really interesting deep dive. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us.